What I'm going to say now is something that everyone knows, and I mentioned it many, many times, but L'Shleim Esinyan, I'm going to repeat it again. And this is concerning the second Sicha in Parsha Shlach in Lekutei Sichos Chelik Yud Gimel. That Sicha came out as a Likud, as a Kuntres, in the year of Tovshin Lamed Dalet. Tovshin Lamed Gimel, I was still in New York, and I worked on the Sichos. And then Tovshin Lamed Dalet, when I moved to Miami, I continued working on the Sichos. I would write up a Sicha, like before, and then send it to New York, and the Chavrei Havad, they would take the Sicha, type it up, whatever it is, and give it into the Rebbe, and then I would see it later, after it was finished and it was printed as a Likud, I would see, and I would look at all the changes, and the Tikkunim, and the Hagos, and the Horas that the Rebbe made. That Sicha was a Sicha that the Rebbe said 2 years earlier in Parsha Shlach Tovshin Lamed Beis. And the Sicha the Rebbe said like this, that he asked the Kasha. We know that the Eibishter was very upset with the story of the Meraglim. He wanted to kill all the Yidden. Moshe Rabbeinu davened, and his Tefilla helped, and the Eibishter did not do that, and he said they'll stay in the Midbar for 40 years, but the people didn't die right away, slowly, etc., because Moshe Rabbeinu's Tefilla helped. But the question is, why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu's Tefilla help concerning the Meraglim themselves, the 10 Meraglim? Because the Pasuk says that they died, and it seems in simple pshat that they died right away. According to Halacha, actually, it says they died a little bit later, as Zion or Yud Zion El. But in Pshuta Shel Mikra, it says that they died right away. But why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu's Tefillah, who asked that they shouldn't die right away, help negate the Meraglim themselves? And the Rebbe answered, because the Meraglim themselves, what they did was against Moshe Rabbeinu. What they fought, they actually were against Moshe Rabbeinu himself. The Yidden, their problem was they were afraid. They didn't have enough amun and deibishter, etc., etc. But the Meraglim were pushed against Moshe. And there is a klal, ein kateg nases haneger, that you can't have the prosecutor become the one that should find the defense, should become the defender. And mele, if they were against Moshe, so Moshe Rabbeinu was the problem by them, so how could Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah help for them? Then we know that by most of the Rashas, the Rebbe would have explained also the Yena Shel Torah, which means the Chassidis in Rasha or the Hero in Aveda in Rasha. So the Rebbe explained the Yena Shel Torah of Rasha, and he said that whatever we find by Moshe Rabbeinu, so too we find by his Pashtusa the Moshe B'chol Dora V'Dora. Every generation there is the Moshe Rabbeinu, which is basically the Rebbe of the generation. So just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu davened for the Yidden, and his tefillah helped. So too, in every generation, the Moshe of that generation davens for the Yidden. And the Rebbe explained, why do we need that? Why can't each person daven himself? Why does he need the Rebbe to daven? And he explained it all by Riches, just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, that he davened for the Yidden. And then the Rebbe said that just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, his tefillah only helped for those that were not against him, but those that fought him were against him. His tefillah didn't help. So too by the Ispashtus of the Moshe, by the Moshe of every generation, which is the Rebbe of the generation, his tefillah only helps for those who are not fighting him. But those that fight him, it doesn't help. That's what the Rebbe said then. So when I wrote up the Sicha to prepare for the Lekutei Sichos, I wrote the same thing, and I sent it away. Then when I got the finished product, so to speak, the Sicha already printed in the mail, I looked at it, and I tried to see the changes, and I saw that the whole end piece is missing. The whole thing by Moshe Rabbeinu is there. Both parts, that Moshe's tefillah helped for the Yidden, and that didn't help for the Meraglim because they were against Moshe. And the same thing in the Yena Shel Torah, it goes into the whole arichas that the Ispashtus of the Moshe, the Rebbe of every generation, his tefillah helps for the Yidden, and you have to have it. But the next part, which is that those who are against the Rebbe, which means against the Moshe of generation, Moshe's tefillah, the Rebbe's tefillah doesn't help, that's missing there. And you see, Take, in the Sicha, it's missing you, waiting for the parallel of the Yena Shel Torah to the original Rasha, and it's missing there. So I didn't understand what happened. So I called up the Vaad and I said, what happened? I thought maybe they took it out. I said, what happened here? So they told me they gave it in, and in the first Haggadah, the Rebbe crossed out that last piece, and he wrote that this is, I don't remember the Lashon exactly, that this does not fit, and it's not so, it's not, almost saying it's not correct. Now they knew that sometimes when the Rebbe writes on something it's not correct, it didn't mean the whole inyan is not correct. It meant that the way it's written is not proper. So they decided by the second ago, when they gave in the Rebbe to Magi a second time, they rewrote that piece with the same idea, but they rewrote the piece. So this time the Rebbe crossed out the whole thing, and the Rebbe wrote, which means this is against the whole philosophy, whole understanding of Chassidus. How in the world could you say that the Rebbe's tefillah doesn't help for those who are against him? And then the Rebbe added these words, Yisoref hanior v'le'omer paper that this is written on be burned. In other words, this is something that's so abgefregt, so not true. How could you say such a thing? So when I heard that, it made such an impression. This just shows what the Rebbe is. That the Rebbe is a person that cares about every single Yid, and his tefillas help for every single Yid. And I think he even quoted at one point the Tanya, where it says that even the Peishim are made in Talmidei Chachamim, those who are against the tzaddikim, the tzaddik, also get their chayas from the tzaddik. But here we see what the Rebbe is. Even though it needs explanation that how come by Moshe Rabbeinu the Rebbe left it, that the tefillas of Moshe did not help for the Meraglim because they were against Moshe. So probably it's because it was it was before the of Chassidus or whatever it is. I don't know exactly what the biur will be, but there has to be a biur. But concerning the Rebbe writes clearly there is no such thing as people that his tefillah shouldn't help because they're against him. And it made such an impact that I made myself up my mind that from then on, that every year when it comes to Parsha Shlach, I would chazer over the story to bring out what the inyan of a Rebbe is.